the automatic start, which is defending champions, opening night, as expected, you know, the noise, the energy, everything's going to be right. But did they, I would say, just show you the promising signs that this is going to be another successful season for Arsenal?
Yeah, listen, I think going into the season, they were always going to be favourites to win the Premier League because of what other teams are doing around them, the rotation of managers around them, especially when it comes to the top 6 teams from last campaign to this campaign. Arsenal are favourites going into the season, so played with confidence. You're going up against a newcomer into the Premier League, but also an old comer with Frankie Lampard leading that side. And Coventry are a good team. They haven't added too many top players to their squad. I'm going to throw it out there. They already are a talented squad, and I do think Coventry will be okay this season in the Premier. I think they'll keep themselves safe. But the way we witnessed Arsenal play was an element of energy to start the game, high pressure to win possession in the right areas, and punishment of the highest order. They didn't even get out of, what, third gear? Right? They didn't have to, because they just played with an element of composure and calmness about them. And that's what champions do. It's amazing the difference that can happen when you've got that championship ring, and of course in the UK they don't do it, but at the same time they've got that championship medal.
There you go.
You can relax and you can enjoy yourself, but now you know the importance of every single game. And sometimes you put too much pressure on yourself when you're fighting for that first title compared to when you've won one.
Yeah.
You know that every single game matters, but it's a long season. You're not going to win it in the first 15 minutes of the first Premier League game of the campaign. So you go into those games and play with composure. Arteta's just got such a great squad of players. The starting 11 was great. Tzolis starting was good, I think. Newcomer into the squad, brings energy, raises the level of everybody else, and they made it look easy, JD.
But just looking at this starting 11, I mean, there is so much quality. And in fairness to Mikel Arteta, you can see that he's kept a lot of the base that did so well in the Champions League final, had done so well. Miles Lewis-Skelly, of course, getting a start. I mean, Bukayo Saka and Ødegaard is interchangeable in terms of between who's playing on the left and who's playing behind Kai Havertz. And even with some of the new additions, you can see that they're still going to have to work their way in. I mean, if you think about Zubimendi, who was bought for a big fee, then pushed out of the squad necessarily because Miles Lewis-Skelly's form in Capier, who, of course, has now become a permanent deal there. Eze, who came with a lot of expectation and delivered in some spells, but no minutes for Victor Gyökeres today as well. What does it say about this squad depth that someone who holds the weight of the number 14 shirt in North London doesn't get any minutes on the opening day of the season?
Who was the highest goal scorer for Arsenal last season, all comps?
I think it was Victor Gyökeres.
Exactly. Listen, when you have that type of depth, obviously you go into it recognising where's the spaces, where can we improve? Strategically, what can we do to be better at the end of the season when we ran out of gas last season, okay? The Premier League was outstanding. Was there another competitor? Maybe City were there or thereabouts towards the end. Liverpool fell off a cliff. Obviously, there was no one really else to compete with them. So they kind of made it look easy and made it hard for themselves last season by sometimes running out of gas, not rotating enough, not being able to rotate because you're relying on consistent performers. And that's what Arteta, who won his 150th game, by the way, tonight, that's what he's a tendency to do, is to stick with what he knows. Now, he doesn't have to. Why? Because he's got 2 starting 11s that he could go out with it and win Premier League games. They started off positively. I thought the starting 11 was excellent. I thought the substitutes who came off the bench were excellent. Madueke came off the bench. Zubimendi came off the bench. And then you have the ability to be able to say, hey, Saka, take a bit of a break here.
Yeah.
Martin, well done. You got yourself triple points for enjoying his fantasy team. Take yourself a break on the sidelines and have a pause. Now, this is the benefit you're going to get. We've come from a World Cup here straight into a Premier League campaign when you just finished in the last game in the Champions League final. It's been a very short off-season for a lot of players. So managing minutes, I think Arteta's going to have to take a little page out of the Luis Enrique book here.
Yep.
And understand that those Premier League games, when you are the favourite going into it, rotate heavy. And when they rotate, they might just be better than what they had originally.
Well, definitely the management of the squad is going to be a major question mark and a new development in terms of Mikel Arteta on his managerial journey as the Arsenal head coach. But one thing he does have is a wealth of options in the front line. Now, we've already seen the speculation around Victor Osimhen and Julian Alvarez throughout the summer. But all of these names here on this list, and missing Max Dowman, which I'm not upset about at all. But you tell me, in terms of the abundance of attackers, do you believe that this is good enough in terms of to compete on all fronts right now as they're equipped?
All fronts is different than competing domestically. I think domestically, with the squad that they have, they could potentially win the treble, Arsenal. They're that good. And I think they've got better. I think from open goal, you'll see more opportunities being created by Tzolis, who's causing a lot of problems for Martinelli to even think about getting into the starting 11. And Gyökeres sitting on the bench. What will happen in that number 9 position? Will he be happy sitting on the bench, or will they look to improve that number 9 position? We're hearing a lot of rumours about potential number 9s coming in through the door that might be a bit more clinical than what we're seeing from Gyökeres already in his first year at the football club. I think that's the one piece that maybe they could look to add. Everything else, they've absolutely knocked it out of the park. Midfield is better. It's deeper, and the players that they've brought in are really competitive. Bruno Guimarães coming in through the door is a sensational piece of business. He obviously wasn't available for this game, but I think he makes everybody else better. Why? Because there's pressure to perform, but also, if he's playing alongside Ødegaard, or he's playing alongside Rice, or he's playing alongside Zubimendi, he makes them better while he's on the pitch. And when he's not on the pitch, he's putting pressure on them to be better so that they stay in the starting 11. Along that back line, the signing of Ezri Konsa, you can talk about it because I know you're thrilled with it. It's really made us not really worry too much about Saliba's absence. It's now made us go, they might be better than they were last year. Goalkeeper had 19 clean sheets. I mean, Arsenal have just knocked it out the park. The only one piece I would like to see them add, and it's a bit of a problem for Gyökeres, I don't think he's a killer. I thought he could score 20 goals last season, which he did. He scored over 20 goals all comps. But can he be a 30, 40 goal scorer? Probably not for Arsenal.
Yeah.
So that means that they might need to do a bit of business between now and the end of the season for that little final piece. But if they don't, JD, they'll still be competitive. They might win the treble domestically, and they might win it all depending on what happens in Paris.
Ian Joy really brought up an interesting point in terms of the additions and the quality that they've added, especially in the final third. And Christos Tzolis is someone that has maybe not had the sexiest headline, but has definitely added a sprinkle of quality. I'm just going to talk to you about what Mikel Arteta said post-match and calling him a top player and the quality that he's going to bring for this squad. So now you've had a chance to reflect. You saw him in the Community Shield final against Man City, of course. You've now seen him in the opening day. Now, I know this is someone that you've tracked for a long part of his career. What do you see in Christos Tzolis, and what is he going to bring to this squad in terms of inevitably in the starting position on the left-hand side?
Listen, I'll be honest with you. You saw him at Norwich, so you saw him before I did. I saw him at Dusseldorf first and foremost, and he scored a ton of goals. He had his best ever scoring season at Dusseldorf, but he didn't get promoted. So therefore, it's difficult to keep a player like him. Listen, he's electrifying. He proved it already last season. He had 23 domestic league assists last year. Right. He is a creator. He's a one-on-one player. He's a confident player. We understand that he's the type of guy that's a very good character, and that's what Arteta's looking for. He's not necessarily looking for someone to come in to upset the locker room. He's looking for a piece that can come in and basically make it better. On the pitch, off the pitch, training ground, understanding he might not play every single game, but you'll get your opportunity. If you perform well for me, you'll stay. And I think Tzolis brings that attitude, and he brings an emerging, in my opinion, an emerging talent on that left-hand side who can go on and make Arsenal a better team. More consistency on the left-hand side with Martinelli, who I thought has been inconsistent. I think that's what they've needed. And in the wide areas, of course, you are creators. So what are they creating for? This is where I'm adding about the final piece. Is it Gyökeres? Is it Kai Havertz that they're creating for? Well, Havertz got off to a great start with Tzolis, obviously, getting possession of the ball, cutting the ball back, and eventually get the goal, right? At the same time, I think there's a better piece of the puzzle they can add to help players like Tzolis, to help players like Saka, to help players Madueke, Eze, Ødegaard, all your creators. They need a killer at some point, but they can also do it themselves, right? Let's make no mistake about it. Saka can score goals, Madueke, Eze, all the names I've mentioned, right? And even Tzolis has proven in the past that he can score goals. You must be delighted with an addition like him into the Gunners, because I think he makes them score a hell of a lot more open goals next year.
I think he's a very underrated signing. I thought the value was incredible as well, and just looking what he could bring overall, the quality, and what you spoke about there, which sometimes doesn't have a quantity or you can't quantify, which is the character. He does look like someone that is really proud of making this step, really happy to be a part of the squad, and fits into the Mikel Arteta profile in terms of the versatility, the adaptability, and also the work rate. He goes up and he goes down, which is all positive things. But I just want to switch gears really quickly, because we could sit here and talk about the defending champions all night, but I do want to make sure we make reference to the defending champions in another instance in terms of coming up from the Championship. Frank Lampard and Coventry City were impressive last year. Had a dip and then responded really well to close out the season, but had a rude awakening today in terms of the gap between the Premier League and the Championship. What do you see in terms of their expectations, and where are their key points to make sure they hit them as well?
They were active in the transfer window trying to improve. Obviously, Hammer came back to the football club from, obviously, Sheffield United, and Onye comes in from Nottingham Forest, and of course they just signed Sadiki Sharif from Fenerbahce. These are good additions to the squad, but at the same point, are they impactful enough to be able to keep you in the Premier League? I think so, and I actually think the team that they had last season is probably good enough to be able to stay in the Premier League regardless, right? They were talented. I think Coventry City, maybe I'm wrong, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Coventry City should have won the Championship last season by 15 or more points. because they just had this dip where they were 10 points clear, then they lost themselves a little bit of enthusiasm and then dropped. The champ does that to you.
It does.
46 games you've played, obviously, in the Football League, as I have. It's a tough league to play in. And at the same time, the champ is one of the toughest leagues in the world to get promoted in. So at times you'll have a dip. Lampard's got a great squad, he's got a great mentality, he's clearly proven at that level, and he showed that, OK, he deserves another chance in the Premier League. Let's see how good he is going to be with this group. They weren't great against Arsenal, they were not. They didn't show enough willingness to go for it, they didn't take enough shots, they obviously were lacking a bit of quality. They made mistakes, Van Eyck for the first goal, Rushworth made a mistake for the second goal. You can't make mistakes at the highest level, JD, because you'll get punished.
You can't, but you are right in terms of, I don't want to spotlight a goalkeeper because he's a young player, he's still developing, still finding his feet, but clearly Frank Lampard has a lot of trust in him, and that trust is really important in terms of that relationship between your number one and, of course, your head coach. So I just want to see, this could be a learning curve for him, because those mistakes that he might have got away with in the Championship last year, which weren't punished, might reflect now in goals being conceded. So I just want to see, from a goalkeeper perspective, what do you think the conversation is going to be like in midweek, just for him to develop and him to keep his confidence up from now on?
You had said something, actually, before we came on air, that you thought that maybe this could have been more from Arsenal, right? And it could have been more. It probably should have been more. But at times, obviously, the goalkeeper will make mistakes and they'll be highlighted. At times, you forget the saves that he actually made in the game. Yep. Arsenal should have scored more, but the goalkeeper made a number of good saves. He had 17 clean sheets in the champ last year. Right, and if I'm right, he probably should have had 25 clean sheets. They will make mistakes, goalkeeper. Coventry are going to have to deal with the fact that they are going to receive a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of high pressure on them. There's going to be a lot of high pressure on that defence. And I think the goalkeeper, Rushworth's got to really be careful, because if you lose your confidence early on, let's not forget, this is the Champions you've gone to on opening night on a Friday night. Most difficult experience to have back in the Premier League when you're getting your first experience. I think you just got to raise your confidence a little bit, and Frank's probably the perfect guy to have there. Don't worry about it. Next game,